Seven-year-old Gael Correas on Wednesday became one of the first kids under age 11 to be vaccinated against COVID-19 as the U.S. began inoculating children aged 5 to 11 one day after the CDC recommended the Pfizer-BioNTech shot for broad use in that group, opening up eligibility to some 28 million kids. It's a third of the strength of the dose given to adolescents and adults and offers protection from the highly contagious Delta variant. For many, it couldn't come soon enough. Since the start of the pandemic, nearly 2 million kids in the U.S. under age 12 have been diagnosed with COVID, says pediatric emergency doctor Matthew Harris.
8,400 of them have been hospitalized. So there's an urgent need for vaccination.
The Pfizer vaccine is shown to be more than 90% effective at preventing symptomatic infection in children, bringing with it the hope of fewer quarantines or school closures and more normal activities and freedoms.
I think I'll feel maybe stronger now that I have the vaccine, and maybe I get to do more things.
That's a relief for New Jersey mom Jojo Doble, whose 2 young children have not seen their grandfather, who is immunocompromised, for 2 years.
It'll make life that much easier to be able to take the kids places, to not feel so worried about, do we have a mask, do we not have a mask? Can we be around these friends and their kids? Can we be around my parents? Can we be around our neighbors? And not all have to stand outside around a fire pit or with, several layers on now that it's getting cold.
Still, it remains unclear how many parents will jump at the chance. Even many who have been vaccinated themselves are more divided over whether to vaccinate their own younger children, given that severe COVID is much less common for them. Dr. Harris empathizes, but calls Pfizer's research impressive.
I am a parent of school-age children, of 7-year-old twins, and I recognize that this is a difficult choice for parents to make, but for me, the calculus is simple. This is the easiest way I can keep my kids safe.
California has mandated school-age children get vaccinated once their age group is eligible, a measure being considered in New York and Washington state.
Jurors saw a series of graphic videos on Wednesday showing the moments after Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 protesters in Wisconsin last year. Footage showed 26-year-old Anthony Huber lying motionless and bleeding, and 27-year-old Gage Grosskreutz screaming for medical aid. Rittenhouse is facing multiple charges, including homicide, in the killing of 2 protesters and wounding of a 3rd when he shot them with a semi-automatic rifle during unrest in Kenosha that was sparked by a white policeman who shot and seriously wounded a black man. The 18-year-old, who watched the videos calmly, has pleaded not guilty, and his lawyers say he acted in self-defense. The prosecution showed video of Joseph Rosenbaum, the first person shot, motionless on the ground, after having thrown a plastic bag with toiletries at Rittenhouse. Video then showed Rosenbaum being carried to a vehicle that would take him to a hospital. Martin Howard, a Kenosha police detective, said there was no evidence that Rosenbaum was armed when he was shot.
At any point in any of those videos, is there any indication that Mr. Rosenbaum had any weapon of any kind?
No.
No gun?
I can only see a plastic bag that he's carrying.
Video showed Rittenhouse running from the scene of the Rosenbaum shooting as others sought to provide medical aid. Rittenhouse's attorneys have sought to portray Rosenbaum as the individual who lit the fuse that night. Some legal experts have said the prosecution has a tough job in convincing a jury that Rittenhouse did not fear for his life.
He seemed nervous in the situation.
Corey Washington, a social media influencer who live-streamed the unrest and captured video of Rittenhouse, said the then 17-year-old appeared nervous and took note of his behavior before the shootings occurred.
I don't know, he just kind of looked young to me, and he had his gloves on and he was smoking cigarettes and stuff. So I kind of was like, he kind of seemed like an interesting figure, so I just took a mental note of that. Okay. Not saying that I felt like, oh, this is a guy that's going to go around and mow a bunch of people down or anything like that. I just was like, oh, that's interesting.
Under Wisconsin law, people can use deadly force if they reasonably believe it necessary to prevent someone from killing or causing great bodily harm to them.
The cloud is ubiquitous. I don't know whether the metaverse will be equally ubiquitous, but at this point, I think what really matters is that we focus on making it useful and helpful for people in their lives. The one thing we cannot do is just move forward to the metaverse without cleaning up the problems that exist on the internet today and without learning the lessons from that work to build a metaverse that is safer, more secure, more private, more respectful even of humanity's needs. I think right now we're all talking about the metaverse as if we're entering some new dimension. This is not like dying and going to heaven. We're all going to be living in the real world with people. I think it's important that we use the hype to build enthusiasm where enthusiasm is appropriate, but we not let the hype obscure that these are all parts of long-term technology trends. What you're going to see is, there's Facebook's version of the metaverse. There's Microsoft's version of the metaverse. There will be Apple's version of the metaverse. There will be Google's version of the metaverse. Everyone is going to be entering this.
Peru's decision to deploy troops in its capital, Lima, this week has some there on edge. The armed forces entered Lima and its outskirts city Callao to support the police in fighting a, quote, significant increase in crime in recent months. Lima local Mateo Robles said it reminds him of the country's violent period under dictator Alberto Fujimori in the 1990s.
It would be a risk to have the armed forces on the streets because for any reason, any citizen could be considered a criminal. I had bad experiences in the 90s when the armed forces would take us down, hitting us with gun butts in any place we were at, and they would not respect human rights and public security.
Peruvian police have reported an increase in crimes like drug trafficking, illegal possession of weapons, and robberies. One resident agreed with the government's measure to deploy security forces.
The criminals don't respect anyone, so what do we want? Deaths to continue, femicide, the crime wave that sweeps the streets to continue? I think that those who oppose it are part of the problem in the end.
Human rights organizations have rejected the resolution and warned that soldiers should not be used for social control.